Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had another very good round with this Edmonton Oilers club, which is quite surprising. I was not expecting to get to the conference finals in year one, but here we are after an 8-0 start to the postseason because we swept both Detroit and the Nashville Predators, so I wasn't really expecting us to do as good against Nashville. But for some reason, our team still continued to do what it does best, which is play good defensive hockey. Game 1 of that series, we won 4-3 in overtime, so a pretty close game. Game 2 was a 3-2 win in regulation, so another close game. And then we picked up another shutout, so we already have 4 shutouts in our first 8 games of the playoffs. And in our final game of that series, we won 4-1, so some very good defensive efforts again. And not necessarily the craziest offense in the world, but the fact that we've won 8 straight games to get ourselves to a conference finals against a tough LA Kings team is quite impressive. Now, LA is an interesting team. They're actually really good, I would say, but they didn't do too well during the season. Like, they were one of the lower seeded teams in the playoffs that made it. So this matchup could be quite interesting in the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference is a little bit more high-end teams, but when we go, say, to this Western Conference, you could see LA was a 6th seed at 94 points. We are the 8th seed at 93 points. So both of us haven't had necessarily the best regular season, but we both got decently far here at this point. So we'll be interesting to see who ends up winning. Now, LA had, I would say, the better regular season still, even though they only had 1 more point than us. The reason being is the goals for per game, the goals against per game are both better. Their power play percentage was actually pretty good for their positioning, and their penalty kill was also pretty good for their positioning. So despite being a 6th place team in the Western Conference, to me, they look like they could have been like a top 3 team easily. So I expect this definitely to be our toughest series yet. I don't think we're going to be able to beat this LA team, but if we do somehow, who knows, maybe we could literally win the Stanley Cup in this first year. But LA definitely posed more of a threat, I would say, than some of the other teams. Detroit obviously was probably the biggest threat, but we somehow managed to erase them. LA, on the other hand, is reliant on some top guys like Anze Kopitar, who is only 22, but an 89 overall. Former Oiler Ryan Smith is there. There's a couple other former Oilers there, like Jared Stoll, for instance. Also Matt Green. So it's kind of interesting to see this as being the matchup in the conference finals. Also, guys like Justin Williams, who obviously Oilers fans will remember putting in an empty net goal to seal the deal against the Oilers back in 2006. So there is some kind of interesting tie-ins with it. Should be interesting to see who ends up going to the Cup Finals. I definitely say they have the way better roster on paper, so we probably, by that logic, will end up winning somehow, but you never know. I definitely think it's going to be a lot tougher this year. Like, I definitely expect us to lose our first few games of the playoffs in this round just because of the fact that we've been so good defensively so far that we really shouldn't have be 8-0 at this point, but we somehow are. Like, look at our goals for per game, 3.25, nothing crazy. LA's is 3.3, so relatively close on that front. Now, we're both the best 2 defensive teams in the playoffs right now. We're only allowing 1.25 goals against per game. Meanwhile, the Kings are allowing 2 goals against per game, so both strong defensive teams right now. Both teams have similar special teams. Our power play is a little bit better, surprisingly. And in penalty kill percentage, we have not allowed a single power play goal against so far in this playoffs, but I do expect the Kings to find a way to score a power play goal against us just because we have been, like I said, a really good team in terms of discipline as well. But I don't know if it's like just the refs are on our side or whatnot, because right now if we go to the entire league in terms of the playoffs and we look at time shorthanded here, you could see that we have 12 times shorthanded. The other teams that are available still in this playoffs, like for instance the LA Kings, I think they took a lot of penalties so far. Yeah, the LA Kings have taken the most penalties in the playoffs at this point in time. So if we don't have the whistles blowing on us too much, maybe we have a chance to win because of that. Because the Kings are going to take a lot of penalties, which means maybe we could score some goals on them because of that. But it's just kind of crazy how we somehow have only taken 12 minor penalties in 8 games. Like, this team is just not taking penalties. We already do have a shorthanded goal as well, so everything defensively has been working well nicely. Our offense, I would like it to get a little bit better, but at the same time, it's been doing enough to get us wins. So should be an interesting conference finals to see who gets to the finals in 2010. But with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about the last episode, and then we'll get into this conference finals matchup and see if, with Dustin Penner back in the lineup, if we could actually still continue to win games. So the first comment is from Tyler G 1994, who says, excited to see the next series happen. I have thoughts, but I want to keep my mouth shut so I don't jinx anything. So yeah, I'm excited for this matchup against the Kings. Should be an interesting one. Just like I said, there's a couple former Oilers. There's also Justin Williams. So it's kind of an interesting matchup that kind of has some tie-ins to the '06 Cup Finals. So whoever wins this one maybe has the better chance to win the Stanley Cup this year. Obviously, the Eastern Conference has two really tough teams, though, Washington and Pittsburgh. So maybe regardless of who wins the series, they will end up losing to either Ovechkin or Crosby. The next comment is from Max Herman, who says, I can't believe the run we're going on even with no Dustin Penner in the lineup. We definitely could do what the Kings did in 2012. And yet it is true. The Kings in 2012, obviously, I think they were the 8th seed, and they went on to win the Stanley Cup that year. So who knows, maybe we are like the 2012 LA Kings, because Dustin Penner actually was on those 2012 LA Kings, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Or maybe he was only on the 2014 team. I can't remember. I think it was on the 2012 team, too. So would be interesting if Dustin Penner is the reason why this team is similarly so good, even though he has missed a lot of games as of lately. The next comment is from Max Effort, who says, Oilers and Kings game last night was a barn burner. Let's go Oilers, oil in 6. And yeah, let's hope that we could find a way to beat this Kings team. Obviously, in real life, I'm not too sure how that series is going to pan out, because that series has been pretty insane so far. Like, LA dominated the first 2 games on home ice. Then the Oilers obviously... Game 3 was pretty insane how they came back, and then obviously they come back at technically in Game 4 too, where they end up winning in overtime. So kind of curious on what that series is going to end up like. I did fill out a bracket, and I had LA in 7, and I think that honestly could still be the case, but obviously I'd probably prefer the Oilers just because them being a Canadian team and all. The next comment is from Jared the Rabbit, who says, what? How did this happen? And yeah, I honestly don't know how this happened, how this team was able to assimilate so well in the playoffs, because we had such a weird, inconsistent season. We had a great first half of the season, second half was mediocre, and then since the start of the playoffs, we've been like literally winning so much. Like, we won the last 2 games of the season to get into the playoffs, and now we're technically on like a 10-game winning streak if you include those regular season games and playoff wins. So this team has been on a really good stretch. I do expect it to come crashing down at some point, but if it doesn't happen, I will be pretty surprised with the results. And the last and final comment is from Sarataku, who says, Pecorine was not too good right now. If Penner ends up being a liability in the next round, don't have any qualms about yanking him and returning to the lineup that you got here. And yeah, that's true. So basically, if Penner doesn't work out well with the lineup, maybe we could just scratch Penner and kind of go with the lineup that we originally had, which was having Patrick O'Sullivan top line, Ethan Moreau on that second line, Nilsson on the third line, and again, also Jones was in the lineup. Like, Jones, I don't think was too bad when he was with us. He was only a -1, but he probably threw a couple hits, I would assume, right? Let's see. Not really the craziest. I'm kind of surprised on that, but yeah, we could always just go basically to the lines that got us to this conference finals if for some reason Dustin Penner doesn't perform. So far, he's got the 1 goal in 1 game because he did play the first game of this playoff run. He scored on his only shot, and he did get injured in that one. His only goal was a game winner, so hypothetically with him back in the lineup, he should help out quite a bit. So excited to see what he could do back with Gagne and Hemsky, and maybe he's the difference maker if this team does get itself to a Stanley Cup Finals this season. So with that said, I think we're ready to get into this matchup. We'll keep the rest of the roster the same. Hopefully Penner could be a good help to our team, and hopefully our team could find a way to win 4 more games in a row. Like, at this point, we might as well hope that we win a Stanley Cup just because we've gone so far already. We might as well just keep on hoping that this team still continues on this little Cinderella run. So let's get to this conference finals and see if we could take out Ryan Smith in the conference finals, or maybe Ryan Smith will get a chance at a Stanley Cup win with the LA Kings. But obviously, he has to go up against a tough team regardless if he does beat us, because Pittsburgh and Washington, I feel like those 2 teams, one of those teams is definitely going to be the Cup favorite. LA would probably be second or third on that list. Like, I'd say probably goes Washington, Pittsburgh. Actually, maybe Pittsburgh, Washington, considering Pittsburgh won the Cup in 2009 technically. So in terms of favorite list, it goes probably Pittsburgh, Washington, LA, and then us, I would say. So obviously, we are still the underdogs, so we'll see if we continue to be that underdog team that wins games. So let's get to game number 1 of the series. We're on the road to start it off. We have not lost a game on the road so far, but I do expect like I still eventually start losing some games here in the series. Like, I could definitely see it going 7 games if our team actually does want to win some games in the series. So first period, game number 1 in LA. Let's see what happens. 2-0 us. Oh my god. Are we actually going to start off this series with another win potentially? I mean, we could get a response from the Kings in the second period, so we got to be a little bit weary about that. But Tom Gilbert opens the scoring. 4 minutes later, Dustin Penner scores. So Penner comes back to the lineup and immediately scores a goal. That's great to see. Shots are 12-9 in favor of us, so pretty good opening period. No complaints whatsoever. Can we hold on to this lead in the second, or will the Kings come storming back? Second period. 4-0 us. Okay, we might be dominating this first game too much, almost in a way. Former King as well, Patrick O'Sullivan scores, and an Ethan Morrow future King scores as well. So there's a lot of tie-ins between both these teams, which is kind of interesting. But I am really surprised our team is dominating this game so much so far. But I feel like at some point, like maybe if we dominate this game too much, we're going to end up just still losing 4 in a row at some point. Like I definitely feel like this team is doomed to lose multiple games consecutively once we start actually losing games. Shots are 20-18 in favor of LA. It's a 4-0 lead for us going into the third. Let's just lock this one down and take a 1-0 series lead here. Power play for us, we do not score, but that's okay. Kings get on the board. Drew Doughty beating Heavy Bullen to break his shutout. Gagne didn't respond right away to make it 5-1. Well, we're obviously going to win game 1 at this point, but is it too much offense in game 1 for us? Justin Williams makes it a 5-2 game. Final few minutes, still up by 3 goals, and that looks like it's going to be the final. Yep, that's going to be the case. So we take game 1 in LA to improve to 11-0 in our last 11 games, and also 9-0 in the postseason. We have still not lost a game on the road at this point. Final shots 32-28. Nice little win there for our team. Not necessarily the best third period, but obviously a great start to the game in those first 2 periods. Definitely set us up for success. So Gilbert from Whitney and Comrie. We had Penner from Souray and Gagne's, O'Sullivan from Cogliano, Morrow from Comrie and Whitney, and Gagne from Hemsky and Penner. So that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. I think Tom Gilbert also actually played for the LA Kings. A lot of LA Edmonton tie-ins, more than you would think, I guess. But let's take a look at some plus minuses on this team. Looks like everybody was pretty good, except for O'Sullivan and Cogliano, who are -1, but that's all right. And a 929 from Heavy Bullen. The Bullen wall is still turning back the clock to 2004. He's been fantastic this postseason. Penner first star, Morrow second star, O'Sullivan third star. So with Penner getting first star of the game in his return, definitely keeping him in the lineup is a good idea. So really happy with Dustin Penner being back from injury and helping us out a little bit there. So a good first game where you're 9-0 in the postseason. I really feel like at some point it's just going to come crashing down. It's almost like building like a Jenga tower, and you're just taking away all these wins eventually from the Jenga tower, and eventually you pull the one that just makes everything crumble, right? So I feel like that's going to happen, because right now we just have like so much luck on our side that it's actually kind of insane. So I do expect the Kings to maybe respond in game 2, but I'm not too sure on what they do against us. Like if we get blown out in a game, that's going to be our downfall, probably, my guess. So let's keep the team the exact same, considering that's another solid game for us. Good defensively, good offensive performance as well. Can we win both games in LA before we head home? Let's see what happens on the road in game 2. See if we can make it a 10-0 playoff run so far up to this point. First period, game 2. 4-2 Kings. That might be our downfall. Now, we do get 2 goals from Robert Nilsson, so at least Nilsson's showing up. But Anze Kopitar and Jack Johnson score, just in case you guys can't see those, which you can't, so there you go. But then Nilsson responded with 2 unanswered goals. Then Rob Scuderi scores and Kopitar scores again. That's a pretty rough period for our defensive play. We're definitely used to a lot better defensive results so far this postseason. So this could be the game that starts the downfall of the Edmonton Oilers, I feel like, at least at this point. Now, we could still score more goals in the second period and tie this game back up, but right now we definitely need to find our defensive play again if we can. And also, we need more goals than guys like Robert Nilsson. Robert Nilsson's a 4th-line guy on his team. We need guys on our top 6 to get going a bit too here, if possible. Second period. 4-4. Oh my goodness. Okay, I was not expecting necessarily us to answer with 2 unanswered goals in the second, but here we are. We're tied going into the third again. This team is such a weird team, man. Like, I don't really know why we have the success we do. Like, we should have probably been still down 4-2 going into the third, but Sam Gagne scores a power play goal. Hemsky then scores as well. This game is tied. 2 goals from our top line. Shots are 28-21 in favor of us. It's a 4-4 game, so it's not the best defensive results. But our team has found itself tied after 40 minutes. So can we find a way to somehow steal this game in LA after we've been trailing for most of the night? Let's see what happens. Third period underway. Come on, boys. Let's get that next one. Somehow take that lead. Ryan Smith, of all people, of course. This might be the way we lose is because of Ryan Smith. Do we have a fifth goal in us to tie this one up, potentially? There's still time on the clock. Come on, boys. Just give me a goal on our side. Freddie Modine makes it 6-4, beating his former teammate. And unfortunately, there's our first loss of the postseason as our winning streak has come to an end. It was kind of a close one to the end, but that third period, unfortunately, we just give up 2 goals. And final shots 35-30 in favor of us, but we lose 6-4. So definitely not our best effort defensively, but at least our offense kind of showed up in that one to make it a decent game. So Nilsson from Orkov and Cogliano, Nilsson from Pouliot and Strudovic, and then we had Gagne from Hemsky and Horkov, Hemsky from Penner and Gagne. And then, as I said, former Oiler and former teammate of Hubby Bullen scores in the third. And that's why we lost that game. So not a great result, but do we need to make adjustments after something like that? I don't think I'm going to make an adjustment after a game like that, even though Heavy Bullen wasn't great and our defensive play wasn't great. It's our first loss of the postseason, so I can't really complain too much. Nelson gets third star, Brown second star, 4 assists, and then Kopitar had 4 points against us for first star, so we got to contain that top line if we want to have a chance to win this series for sure. But at least we stole a game in LA, so I'm not going to say, hey, that was a bad effort on the road. So we're 9-1, they're 9-3, so like I said, if we lose 2 games in a row, then we'll start to make adjustments. But right now, that was our first loss of the playoffs. We can't be too mad at our team because they went on such a long winning streak. It was 9 games in the playoffs and 11, including the last 2 regular season games. So we knew eventually we would lose a game, and I'm not surprised that it came there. All right, so I think we'll keep the team the same for our first home game back. But like I said, if we lose this one, give up a lot of goals like last game, then we'll look into some defensive adjustments potentially. So can we find a way to take back the series lead, or is this the downfall of the team? Are we going to eventually lose 4 straight like I predicted in last episode? Let's see what happens. Game 3, back on home ice, first time in the conference finals since 06, I guess, technically at this point. Can we find a way to have a good first period this time? First period. 1-1, I'll take it. It's better than being down 4-2 after 1. Sheldon Soure opens the scoring for us, and Peter Harold scores for them. Power play goal again. So we have given up some power play goals here so far in this series, I think, which is not great, but hopefully our penalty kill is still doing a decent job. Shots are 7-6 in favor of the Kings, so not a lot of shots in that first period, but both teams have goals. Can we find a way to get our lead back in the second period? Second period? 2-2, okay. Another tie game going into the third. At least we're kind of hanging around with the Kings a little bit in most of these games so far. Cogliano makes it 2-1. Ryan Smith answers back. If Ryan Smith ends up being the thorn in our side, that'll kind of suck in a way. But at the same time, we kind of hope Ryan Smith gets a Stanley Cup somewhere. So that will be okay if he does beat us. But at the same time, it would be nice for us to win as well, just because we're this far anyways. Shots are 21-14 in favor of the Kings. It's a 2-2 game. Can we find a way to get that lead back? It's been back and forth so far. Third period underway. Come on, boys. Let's get that next one. Let's get that next one. And play some good defensive hockey down in this third period, if possible. Oh, man, they're running away with the shots in this third period, which is kind of scary. Come on, boys. I know you have one in you. I know you have one in you. I don't know who, but I know somebody does. And we're going to overtime in Game 3. Interesting. Shots are 31-24 in favor of them, so they got a lot of shots in that third period. But the Bullen wall was really good in that third period to keep us in this game. We just need somebody randomly to step up on this team. It could be literally anybody on the roster. Could be a random 4th line guy. Could be a top 6 guy. Could be a top 2 defenseman. Top 6 defenseman. I don't really care who scores it, but can somebody score? Maybe Aaron Johnson of all people would score. I don't really know. But let's see what happens. Overtime underway, looking to take the series lead, and we immediately score to start overtime. It's Sheldon Soure, probably with a big clapper from the point, and it's a nice 3-2 victory to give us back our series lead. Another good defensive effort, good goaltending effort, and Bullen Wall responded well after a bad game. We got outshot 31-25, but we win 3-2 in overtime. Nice little win there. So Sure scored 2 goals in that game. He scored the first one as well from Gagne and Hemsky. Cogliano scored from Throwback and Brule. And the game winner is Sure from Comrie 18 seconds into overtime. Nicely done. Wow. All right. Was not expecting to win necessarily again, but here we are. Sure gets first star, Heavy Bullen the second star, and Brown the third star. But yeah, the Bullen wall was a big factor in that win because actually the shots were even in that third period, but I thought they were running away with the shots, so never mind. But they outshot us badly in that second period, but he still kept it as a tie going into the third. So the Bullen wall is probably one of the main reasons why we won that game. And like I said, he's been turning back the clock quite a bit because he's been fantastic for most of these playoffs. He's had some hiccups, obviously, like Game 2, but for the most part, he's been dialed in. So we are 10-1 in the playoffs and have a 2-1 series lead. I still feel like we're going to go on a losing streak at some point. It might end up being in the finals at this rate, but we never know. We never know until we see what happens with the rest of these games. So Pittsburgh's up 2-1 on Washington right now. Could end up being the battle of Oilers versus Penguins way earlier than McDavid playing obviously in the NHL, so that's going to be interesting if that's the case. But let's keep the team the same. We managed to respond with a victory. Can we take a 3-1 series lead on the LA Kings? If we do take a 3-1 series lead, I still feel like we could lose 3 in a row. But maybe this team has it in them to get to the Cup Finals this year. I was not expecting us to win necessarily games against the Kings, but here we are. So let's see what happens. Game 4, still on home ice. Can we win both of our home games and set us up for a chance in a Stanley Cup Finals in 2010 of all years? First period. 2-0 Kings. I expected that at some point. Freddie Modine scores again on a Heavy Bullen, and Frolov scores. So Frolov scores on the power play. Modine, of course, like I said before, teammate of Heavy Bullen in 04, so he kind of knows his weakness, I guess, a bit. Shots are in our favor 11-10, but we are down by 2 goals. So not the best start for the Bullen wall in this one. Not the best start for our defensive play. But can our offense find a way to respond in the second period? Second period. None. Kind of. Morrow made it a 1-goal game, but Dustin Brown scored with 4 seconds left. So that's a bad goal to give up if you're the Bullen wall. Giving up a goal with 4 seconds left. Like, we could have been down by only a goal going into the third, but that goal restores that 2-goal advantage for the Kings. Shots are 24-16 in favor of them as well. We're down by a pair of goals going into the third. Can we find a way to respond in this third period, or is it going to be a tie series and a best of 3 going forward? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Power play for us. It's a long power play, and they get a short-handed goal from, of course, the best defensive player in the last, 10 years or so, I would say, in my opinion, and even longer than that. Anze Kopitar makes it 4-1. Kopitar is so good in this. It's actually kind of insane. And Robert Nilsson scores another goal in the series to make it 4-2, but it's a little bit too late. And unfortunately, we're going to lose 4-2 on home ice. So we have lost 2 games in the series. Like I said, I expected to be maybe a 7-game series, and that's maybe the way it's trending right now. So Morrow from Brule and Comrie, and we had Nilsson from Pouliot and Pisani. But unfortunately, we have another tie series going forward. So Kopitar first star, Morrow second star, Brown the third star. I actually didn't want to go to LA's stats. I want to go to our stats. See anybody badly minus? Hemsky, Horkoff, top line guys again. Bullen wall's been a little bit more inconsistent against the Kings, which is not a surprise. I might have to make some adjustments already since we've lost 2 of our last 3 games, but not really sure what to address. Because obviously, like they said, the Kings are a tough team, so it makes sense that we'd lose games against them, but obviously we got to find a way to win in LA this next game, or else we're going to be trailing and on the brink of elimination, despite having such a good playoff run. So, how has Gagne been? 16 points. Damn, I didn't realize Sam Gagne's been so good for our team so far at this point. Sean Horkoff's only got 9, so those 2 guys are fine to stay where they are. Penner, since he's been in the lineup, 4 points in 5 games, plus 3. Patrick O'Sullivan still got 8 points. Let's go back to O'Sullivan top line, go back to Penner as a second line guy, maybe. And then aside from that, I don't really know if there's much else I would address. How's Comrie been? Oh, Comrie's been actually fantastic too. 11 points. He's been outperforming Cogliano, so we'll move Cogliano down to a third line role because of that. Just because Comrie maybe in the top 6 could get some offense going up there. And then aside from that, I think that might be all we change up. We could go always like somebody else on the top pairing with Sure. But Schmid has had some good success here in the postseason. Tom Gilbert's been kind of quiet offensively, which is kind of surprising. I think we'll keep the rest of this the same, so we'll go with that. I don't feel like Jones needs to be in the lineup if Pisani's been good, which he has 2 assists, is +1. Yeah, I guess we'll keep it like that. So this is going to be our lineup going into this next game. Whoever wins this next game will be 1 win away from the Stanley Cup Finals. So this is going to be a tough one to win in LA, but let's see if our boys are up to the challenge. They've been doing great all postseason. Couple hiccups this series, but if we could respond with a win here, it could be an interesting last few games of this conference finals potentially, as the Eastern Conference is also tied up at 2-2 right now. All right, well, let's see if we could take another game in LA. Last time we were in LA, we lost 6-4. First time we were there, we won 5-2. So can we take back our series lead? It's been back and forth so far. Let's see if we can respond here with a nice victory. First period. 3-1 Kings. Well, this might be the losing streak that I was eventually anticipating. We lost last game. If we lose this game, it'll be 2 in a row, and then we'd be on the brink of elimination. So Kopitar opens the scoring. Jarrett Stoll scores, of course. He has to score against the Oilers. Freddie Modine scores again. Freddie Modine's been a thorn in our side so far. And then Dustin Penner gets us on the board, so at least Penner has another goal. Shots are 16-5 in favor of them, so our offense did not generate a ton in that first period, but they did get a goal, so we are still in this game, but we got to be careful with the amount of goals we're starting to give up. Can we find a way to respond in the second period? Second period? 4-2. Okay, we're still in thin 2 goals. Ryan Smith made it 4-1. Horkov answers back. Seems like it's always the same guy scoring for the Kings. It's either Ryan Smith, Freddie Modine, those type of guys. But we're down by 2 goals going into the third again, which means this might be the beginning of the end for this team. Or last game was the beginning of the end, I should say. Shots 24-20. It's a 4-2 game. Can we find a way to have a good third period here and claw back into this, or are we going to end up losing this game and being pushed to the brink? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Let's see what happens. Power play for us. We do not score on it. If we would have scored on that power play, that would have helped out a lot potentially. Power play again for us. We do not score on it. Our special teams are failing us at the worst time, and Alexander Frolov scores on Jeff Delorier, so hopefully Bullwall did not get hurt, but that's going to write off this game pretty much. As the LA Kings have won 2 in a row, they beat us 5-2, and now we're trailing in the series 3-2, and we need to win 2 straight games, or else we're going to be eliminated. Damn. That's unfortunate, man. Penner from Sura and Gagne, and Horkov from Comrie and Whitney. See, 3 stars in that game. Stoll, Quick, and Kopitar. Of course, Jared Stoll had to be first star with 3 points against us. Any badly minus people in that game? Yes. A lot of -2s. -3s as well from Hemsky and O'Sullivan, so maybe I should not have them on the same line. Okay, we're going to have to make some crazy adjustments here to try and win 2 straight games, but we might be a conference finals exit in this first year, which is not terrible. It's like a way better run than I expected from this team, but also at least it gave a lot of experience to guys like Sam Gagne here early on. So I'm pretty happy with the results, regardless if we end up losing this or not. So let's go back to Penner top line. Aside from that, I'm trying to think of what else we want to do here. There's not much else I can do. I might honestly take Pisani out of the lineup because he doesn't really do too much. Let's get a little bit of grit in there and get Zach Stortini in there to punch some faces, even though that's minus line now. Aside from that, let's go Nilsson down the middle. How has Pouliot been? 2 assists only. Let's take Pouliot out of the lineup as well. Go with Jones. Let's just get a bit of grit onto that 4th line. So Jones and Stortini, Nilsson will play with them as well, even though Nilsson's not a physical player. But Jones and Stortini, I think maybe that could send a message and get us to maybe a Game 7 at least. Anybody else we want to put into the lineup? Chris Armstrong, when he played, was actually decent, but I don't think there's anybody I would scratch on our defensive core. Like Strudwick's a +6. He's been pretty damn good defensively. Yeah, I think we'll go with that. And then the Bullwall, his numbers are still looking pretty good. Jeff Delorier, when he has played, has been kind of actually pretty good too, for that matter. He allowed 2 goals on 27 shots against. But we'll go with the Bullwall, and the rest of this will be the same. So A little bit more grit for Game 6. Could get us into penalty trouble, but it also could help us out maybe in terms of not allowing their top guys chances. So, is this going to be a 3-game losing streak to eliminate us from the playoffs? Or are we going to be able to force a Game 7 back in LA? Let's see what happens. Real-time simulation as we look to survive another day. Washington has also Pittsburgh on the brink of elimination, so it could end up being Ovechkin versus Kopitar for the Stanley Cup in year 1. So let's do real-time sim, see if our team could find a way to win here. Because we're in front of our fans, so who knows, maybe we could find a way to win. We had a power play, but we did not score early, which is not great. Our power play has been kind of failing us a little bit as of late. Penalty kill. Nicely done, penalty killers. Final few minutes of this first period, still scoreless so far. And that's the way it's going to stay going into the second period with the shots 13-8 in favor of us. So we did generate a lot of good chances in that first period, but we haven't been able to score on Quick, which is not ideal because if Jonathan Quick gets going, he's going to stop a lot of things. So we got to be careful about that. Let's see if we can break this deadlock in the second period or not. Second period underway. Come on, boys. Let's get that first goal of the game. I know somebody has a goal on them. I'm just not too sure who it is. I feel like it's somebody maybe in the middle 6, but I'm not too sure. Penalty kill here in the second period. We killed that off. That's a big penalty kill at this point of the game. And we are going to be tied 0-0 going into the third period, despite us outshooting him 24-14. So right now it's a matchup between the Bullenswall and Jonathan Quick. Bullenswall's only had to face 14 shots so far. But Jonathan Quick has definitely done really well for his team in this game, which is not ideal. So we might be heading into our final 20 minutes of the season. Who wants to be the one force a Game 7 back in LA? Maybe we have Fernando Pisani. Actually, maybe I should have kept Pisani in. I scratched him. I forgot. I was going to say maybe we want to call him Pisani to try and force it to a Game 7, but I scratched him just because he hasn't done much. But would have been nice if he was like what he was in 06 at this point. But who wants to be a hero for us and keep us alive? Third period underway. Come on, boys. Let's get that game's first goal. And the Kings score first. It's Frolov. Frolov's been scoring a lot as of late. Power play for us. It's a 5-on-3. We do not score on it. Oh, man. We're seriously going to lose 3 straight games, are we? Or do we have a response? Here, let's jump in because maybe we could change the complexion of this. And also, we could get a little bit of a taste of action with what our team looks like on this 2010 build. So, actually, let's go to the... we'll go to the 2016-17 home, even though that technically wasn't their home jersey at that point. And we will go to, I guess, the Kings don't have their away one from that time period, so I guess we're going to have to go with their 06-07 aways. That's the closest we could get to it. So, well, let's see if we could force a Game 7. We need to find a goal in these last few minutes. Tie this game up, maybe win it in overtime, get it to a Game 7, but not looking too good so far. We have our 4th line out there, 4 minutes to go, so Zach Sortini might get a little physical on this shift, you never know. And they have their first line out there, which is not a great matchup for sure. Dustin Brown with the puck, walks around, finds it to Ryan Smith, he finds it to Jack Johnson over to Brown. Dustin Brown to Drew Doughty, a great shot block. Stortini throws it up, here's Ryan Jones. Ryan Jones walks in. He finds, who was that? Robert Nilsson, and a big save by Quick on the first shot that we've seen in this third period. Damn, that was a really good chance here early on. All right. We have our top line back out there. Gagne, Penner, and Hemsky with Sure and Schmid on the point. Gagne versus Kopitar. Kopitar wins it, of course. That's the one thing that sucks. Kopitar will probably win almost every single face-off he has, so I don't know how it's going to help us. Brown to Doughty. Doughty shoots. Good save by the Bullenswall. 2:18 left in this third period, only trailing by a goal, so we definitely could still get back into this. But we need to get some ozone time. As Drew Doughty got decked by Schmid. Alright. Top lines both out there still. Gagne versus Kopitar. Can he win this? No, he can't. Kopitar's way too good on face-off, man. Deflection to the net, and I don't know what the heck happened there, but it does not get to the net, I don't think. And then I don't know why Penner tried to put that in his own net, but it looked like he did. Kopitar steals the puck, and a big save there again by Habby Bullen. Schmid up to Hemsky. Alish Hemsky will dump it to the corner. Nice dump over to Penner. Penner walks around with it, finds Gagne. He finds Soure a bomb. That's turned away by Quick. That's a good little play. Nice little chip to the corner and a setup at the point. That's who you want taking that shot too. Soure could have a bomb of a shot if he needs to. All right. Another face-off. We might have the goalie pulled soon if we could win it, but Kopitar, of course, wins another face-off, but we still hold it in their zone. But now they get it out. Ryan Smith with the puck. Of course, he's going to have to maybe beat us here in Game 6. Alashemsky with it now. We are pulling the goalie. Hemsky knows how to score when the goal net is empty on the other side, but we can't get the pass across. Jarrett Stoll with it, the former Oiler. Turned over. Ethan Morrow with it now. Ethan Morrow throws a little hit. Jack Johnson throws it up. Williams gets decked. If Justin Williams gets an empty net goal, I swear to God, that would be like PTSD for any Oilers fan. And he still has the puck. Jarrett Stoll has it now, and he scores. Of course, it has to be Jarrett Stoll from Justin Williams. Well, if you were a fan of the Oilers in 06, I apologize. I apologize because that's one of your former third-line kind of guys scoring an empty net goal to eliminate your team, assisted by a guy who scored the empty net goal to help seal the deal in Game 7. Oh, boy. Well, at least it was a good run for this team. Like I said, I didn't expect us to get as far as we did, but we ran into a really good Kings team that's pretty much an underrated team. Like I said, based on their stats, I think they could have been a top 3 team in the Western Conference, but they finished 6th. And they will get a chance to play against either Alex Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby for the Cup in 2010. So, good little run, but unfortunately it's going to come to an end a little bit earlier than we were hoping for, but it was way better than we anticipated as well. Justin Williams is up there in playoff points, so maybe I did make Justin Williams actually a good playoff performer, which is nice to see. But yeah, 2-0 for them. We're out shooting them, and they score another goal, and it's Justin Williams again. Are you serious, man? I feel like that's like kind of like a little bit of a shot in the face, quite to speak. Like Justin Williams scores 2 goals, or gets a goal and an assist, both in the final minute here. This is one the Bullenwall would like to have back. A little toe drag and a quick shot by Williams. Blockered off heavy Bullen and in. Damn, man. Doubt he gets an assist on that play. That sucks, man. We could have just lost this game 2-0 and we'd be fine, but that's definitely one you don't really want to give up. You want to kind of play for pride at this point, and you end up just giving up another goal. Oh, well. Oh, well. Damn, Washington's top line is doing all the work in the playoffs right now. I feel like Washington's going to win the Stanley Cup, but who knows, LA could surprise us. Damn, alright. It is what it is, though. Of course, Jarrett Stoll scores. Of course, Justin Williams scores. And unfortunately, your Edmonton Oilers is going to be knocked out in the conference finals in 6 games. At least we did win some games in this conference finals, so it was a good run. But it comes to an end against Jonathan Quick. So it will be Kings and Caps or Kings and Penguins. Who will be the 2010 Cup champions? I wonder. But damn. A couple more wins and we would have been good, but no. It was back and forth early on, and then I knew eventually once we'd start losing, we'd actually lose multiple in a row. So that did happen. Little handshake line. But at least Ryan Smith gets to get a chance for the Stanley Cup. Same with Jarrett Stoll. All those former guys that were on our team at one point in time. Not in this franchise mode, of course, but in real life. So there we have it. There we have it. All right, so who are the 3 stars in that game? Probably Williams and stuff. Yeah, Williams, the 3rd star, 3 points in that last game, including that last goal, which he didn't really need to score, but he just decided to do a nice little toe drag around Ryan Whitney and then put it in. Of course, Witt had to pull off the screen, right? 2nd star, let me guess, Jarrett Stoll. Yep, Jarrett Stoll. Jarrett Stoll in those last 2 games were really good against us as well. 3 points for him in this one. It's going to literally show the exact same goal again, which is kind of funny. And then 1st star, I'm guessing, is Jonathan Quick, considering he made 36 saves and didn't allow a single goal. Probably. Jonathan Quick's a pretty damn good goalie in this already, which is good to see that he's actually developing in the right ways. So there is that. Let's take a look at the box score stuff here. Yeah, Williams with 3 points in that 3rd period. Well, I guess I made a clutch player in that 3rd period. Also, Stoll had 3 points technically in that 3rd period too, because they had points on that goal in the sim engine too. Of course they did. All right, so there is that. let's take a look at some stats, and then we'll obviously see who wins with the Stanley Cup in 2010. Obviously, it's not going to be the exact same team that won the Stanley Cup in 2010, but at least we're getting some teams that made sense for the time period going far, except for us, pretty much. But let's take a look at some stats here. So, in terms of player stats for the postseason, Sam Gagner was fantastic. 17 points in 14 games. The future is really bright for Sam Gagner, I think, as long as we keep putting him next to good players. Hemsky was really good this season as well in the postseason. Comrie was actually way better than expected. He is a pending UFA, so I'm not too sure on if he'll come back or not. Probably not, but it's hard to say because we are going to be looking into rebuilding soon. Sean Horkoff, 10 points. Patrick O'Sullivan, 8. Like, we didn't have the best depth scoring after a couple guys, but it's not the worst results I've seen. So there is all that. I did want to take a look at the defensemen only. Sura had 8 points. Whitney had 6. Yeah, it looks like most of the defensemen did an okay job. And then from a goaltending perspective, Happy Bolin had a 924. Deloria had a 925. So our goaltending and our defensive play was fantastic. We had some okay depth scoring. But mainly the two guys that ran the show for us were Hemsky and Gagner, offensively at least. Their plus-minus wasn't the best. But there was also some bad plus-minuses, like Patrick O'Sullivan was -5. Everybody else was only like a -1 or better. So Patrick O'Sullivan, maybe he's trade bait. I don't really know. He is young, so maybe we hold on to him. But there is that. All right, so who's going to win the Stanley Cup? As it is going to be Washington and LA for the Stanley Cup in 2010. Pittsburgh just got eliminated, so there will be a new champion this season. So let's go simulate the draft. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup in 2010? The answer is going to be the Washington Capitals, and Manchester wins the AHL. So even though the Kings lost in the finals, their AHL team just won the Calder Cup, which means they have good prospects coming. And Alex Ovechkin wins the Stanley Cup 8 years earlier than he did in real life. So, Ovi's already a Stanley Cup champion. Maybe he'll win multiple at this point. So, let's look at that playoff tree as Washington wins in 6 games. And they went through quite a bit of teams. Obviously, they went through the Rangers in 7 in the first round. They went through the Carolina Hurricanes in 7 in the second round. They went through the Penguins in 6. And then they took out the Kings in 6. So there's that. Also, AHL-wise, in case any of you guys are AHL fans, Manchester beat Lake Erie in the finals in 7 games. And Manchester beat Norfolk. They also beat Hartford and Syracuse. All right. Let's take a look at those awards. Wrap up the season. So, Stanley Cup going to Washington. They also won the President's Trophy this year, so maybe it's not a curse. And, yeah, obviously we know who was in the Cup Finals. Kopitar won the Art Ross, which is kind of weird. Also, the Hart. Markov wins the Norris, so Andrei Markov, the best defenseman this season. Kopitar wins the Lady Byng, and it's funny because in real life he won it only a couple of years ago, so kind of realistic there. He also won the Calder, which is broken in this because obviously he wasn't a rookie in 2010. He was a rookie in 2007, but I can't designate who's actually a rookie at this point in time. Nick Backstrom wins the Conn Smythe. That's kind of an interesting one, so he must have set up Ovechkin and Semin for a lot of goals. Tim Thomas wins the Vezina in 2010. All right, I think he actually did at this point in time, if I remember right, so that might be realistic. Nabokov wins the Jennings. Then also Fedor-Tootin and the Bill Masterton. Ottawa's coach is Jack Adams, which at this point, I'm trying to remember who that would have been. Would that have been like Corey Clouston or something like that? I can't remember who was 2010. Off the top of my head, I don't even know. Bergeron wins the Selke, so shout out to Patrice Bergeron. Kopitar wins the Lindsay. And Zach Parise, the Maurice Richard. Kind of interesting seeing Parise win the Richard, considering he never did that in real life. AHL, you got Sergei Shirokov with a couple words. Alexander Giroux, most goals. That's realistic. Shirokov, again, the best rookie, and that's kind of broken. Sulzer won the best defenseman in the AHL. That's Alexander Sulzer. Dan LaCosta, best goalie in the minors. Scott Parse was the Calder Cup playoff MVP. Interesting. Greg Moore was best in his dedication to hockey. Clayton Stoner, involvement in the community. Jonathan Bernier, best goalie in the AHL, which means the LA Kings goaltending situation is only going to get better from here on out. They also have Sergei Shirokov as that, and that. Boom. Okay. So there's all the awards for this season. Let's simulate to the draft and find out some results in terms of the lottery and all that. So the first overall pick this year will belong to the Columbus Blue Jackets, which means The Blue Jackets are going to likely get either Taylor Hall or Tyler Seguin or a generated guy. St. Louis has number 2 as they move from 12 to 2. Toronto falls back from 1 to 3. You have Colorado 4, Philly at 5. All right, so that's the results for 2010. And what else we got here? Any retirements? I don't think so, right? Just a real Brad Hunt, not the one I made, I don't think. Because I think I did make him in this franchise mode, but I'm not too sure. So there's that. Coach retirement, did we lose anybody? We lost Brian Finley, which I don't know if that guy was a coach of ours or if he was a goalie coach, but we did lose a coach. And AHL, we did lose some coaches as well in Springfield as we lose Cade Vitale and Russell Benson. Okay. So there is that. Final few things we got to do to wrap up this episode. Let's take a look at our progress reports, our contract situation, and the draft class. Because obviously next episode is going to be our first draft of this franchise mode, which should be interesting. But looks like we're getting some statistical growth. I don't really know what to make of some of these guys like Patrick O'Sullivan. He's a high 9 listed as a second line guy right now. A lot of statistical growth, also some natural. So we could maybe try and cash out on him, but he is a pending RFA, I think. Hemsky's up to an 89, damn. Hemsky's fantastic. He's one guy that could definitely fetch us a ton, but I'm not too sure if I want to flip him yet or not. He's on a lot of statistical, too. Cogliano got a lot of growth, which is interesting. Most of this is probably statistical, but good to see at least some guys growing in the right ways. In the system, any good guys growing? Vandeville's up to 70. Nash up to 70. Anybody high overall down there? Delorier. Pisani's at 76 now. Not really any prospects getting a ton of growth. Like Linus Omark's still at 74. Always when I say Linus Omark, I feel like I want to say Linus Olmark. It's kind of annoying. Payarvi didn't get any growth as well. Payarvi was unsigned though, so maybe we have to get him into the AHL next season. And goalies, we don't really have much prospects even, so we probably just need to get a lot of growth from our prospects when we do draft some. Aside from that, our contract situation. Who is a pending free agent this offseason again? So we do have Patrick O'Sullivan. Like I said, he's a pending RFA. I wouldn't mind holding on to him for a few years, but maybe we want to trade him away. He is a pending UFA. Mine's only 1 year right now. But maybe we could sign him up for a few years at least, like a 3-year deal until he's 28, then decide what to do with him. Comrie is probably a guy that's just going to be let go of. He was good for us in the playoffs, but at this point in his career, he's not going to get much better. And also, we don't really need those type of veteran players. We're trying to look for younger guys too. Nielsen I could hold on to probably. Same with Pouliot as bottom 6 options for his team. Probably let go of guys like Aaron Johnson, Fernando Pisani, Ryan Patoli. A lot of those type of old guys. Jordan Eberle probably will play in the AHL next season if he's eligible. So that's exciting. But yeah, we'll probably let go of a good chunk of the UFAs that we have. We don't have any goalies expiring. But we do need to think about still who we trade away this offseason. Because Dubnyk is pretty much ready to take that backup job. So maybe we have Dubnyk and Delorier and still trade the way the Boomwall, even though he's great for us this season. Because he's going to start dropping off probably. Defensively, for trade options, like we have guys like Sheldon Souray we could trade away. I mean, we could trade away Gilbert or Whitney, but it's hard to say. Strudwick probably could just be held on to at this point. He's not going to do much, and he's not got value, really. But Petrie's pretty much ready to make the jump almost too, so we probably could get rid of a defenseman in this area. Like Aaron Johnson could be gone, and Petrie could come in replacement. Hemsky's potentially a trade option, but he's 26 only, so maybe not. Left wing side of things, we could trade Penner. He's got multiple years. Morrow has multiple years. We could flip him. Like, there's a lot of options to trade away. So if you guys could give me like a list of players you would trade away this offseason, let me know. We could also try and ask Sean Horkoff if he would waive his no movement clause, but I don't feel like he would, especially after our team just got as far as we did. Now, if we start going into full-on rebuild, maybe he would start actually changing his mind about things. So we'll see who we end up trading away next episode, but I'd say trading away some good players might make sense. Maybe not for this year's draft class. Maybe we want to wait till next year's draft class. Hard to say because next year and future years are a lot better than the 2010 class, I think. So in terms of the draft class itself, we only have our pick this year. We didn't make any trades this year, so we only have 27th in every 27th in each round. So I don't really know what we're going to grab in this first year draft. Looks like the generated guy is supposed to go first overall, so St. Louis might be getting Sagan or Hall as the second pick. Kind of sucks that they didn't get Tarasenko, but considering we're drafting 27th, we could potentially go for some generated guys, or we go for the real players, which I feel like the real players might be better, but if we want to go for generated, we can. But the best in terms of real players around that point, Alexander Burmistrov. I mean, Burmistrov is going to be close to NHL ready, but he doesn't have a high ceiling. So Burmistrov could be interesting. I wouldn't mind Alexander Burmistrov just to give us some center depth, but like I said, not a high potential, but a good overall out of the draft. There's also like Eric Branson, who's going to be probably a decent overall, but he's not going to be the most effective player in the world. He might be okay. DSP, I forget how many years out he is, 2 years as well. And DSP's okay. I don't think he's going to become much, but I know I also made some steals in this draft class. Like, I think Hyman's supposed to go in this first year draft, right? Oh, yeah, there's like Evgeny Kuznetsov. Like, technically, if I wanted to cheese it, I could draft Evgeny Kuznetsov late first round because I'm pretty sure I made him a low elite. So he might be somebody decent. Aside from that, who was the other one? Yeah, there's Hyman as well. Hyman's a low elite too. So we could always take Hyman, but he's a lot more years out too. So he's a bit more of a project low elite. So, or we could go for goalie prospects, get guys like Grubauer into this organization, Peter Mrazek. Like I said, we could also draft some of these generated guys, but a lot of these generated guys probably won't be super good in the early years until I turn the draft class quality back up. So there is all that. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the 2010 draft and re-sign stage. We probably will just end up keeping with our picks, I feel like. I feel like if we are trading away some players in a roster for next year's picks or future picks, would make a lot more sense, or prospects even for that matter. Just because obviously I think we're starting to rebuild probably for next season, but I'm not too sure if some people I want to part ways with right away. Like I said, Hemsky I feel like I might want to hold on to for at least a few more years still, but obviously guys like Dustin Penner, Sheldon Souray, maybe we think about flipping them in next episode, and we should be able to get at least some decent returns for those type of guys in terms of prospects or maybe even picks. Say something down below, and I'll see you guys next time.